Here are the top stories for today, September 5, 2019. President Duterte is likely to order the revamp of the Bureau of Corrections following the premature release of heinous crime convicts. The president says he will raise before China the arbitral ruling on the West Philippine Sea at another time. The Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao is negotiating for the surrender of two factions of the renegade Bangsamoro Islamic Freedom Fighters. And CNN names Vigan as one of the most picturesque towns in Asia.
Good day, I'm William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. President Rodrigo Duterte is believed to be eyeing a revamp of the Bureau of Corrections over the premature release of convicts of heinous crimes. This following the president's order to dismiss of BuCor Chief Nicanor Faeldon for his involvement in their release. Benj Bondoc has the story.
President Rodrigo Duterte may probably initiate a total revamp of the Bureau of Corrections amid the controversies hounding the agency over the early release of more than 1,000 heinous crime convicts on the basis of good conduct. Senate President Vicente Sotto III on Wednesday said that he totally agrees with Senator Bongo's assessment that heads will roll in the ongoing controversy. Data from BuCor shows that a total of 1,914 prisoners convicted of heinous crimes have been granted early release since 2014 because of the Good Conduct Time Allowance Law. Almost half were released during the tenure of sacked BuCor Director General Nicanor Faeldon, who was appointed the agency's head in October 2018. The release of the convicts was bared after the near release of former Calauan Laguna Mayor Antonio Sanchez, who was convicted in the 1993 rape slay of UP Los Baños student Eileen Sarmenta and the torture killing of her companion Alan Gomez. The BuCor chief also signed release orders for the three men convicted in the 1997 rape slay of Mary Joy and Jacqueline Chong. President Duterte has fired Faeldon on Wednesday night, citing that he disobeyed his order not to allow the release of the heinous crimes convicts.
Ito, I decided late last night, and my orders are: one, that I am demanding the resignation of Faeldon immediately. Second, that I am calling for an investigation to be handled by the Ombudsman. I said no releases, but what he said was a computation. May apoy na nga eh. I was trying to provide the fire extinguisher para wala na maduda yung tao. No releases. Eh kung sinabi niya yan, di wala na sana. Ang ginawa niya, he tried to justify ang computation nila. Which may be correct, by the way. Hindi naman mabobo to eh. But the problem is there was a fire burning. Pag sinabi ng presidente, hintay ka until further orders. Ang ibig sabihin noon, mag-imbestiga ako in a jiffy. An investigation, sure, we just ask persons about what really happened. Then I can make the decision.
Duterte ordered other BuCor officials and the committee responsible for allowing the release of the heinous crimes convicts to report to him and Justice Secretary Minardo Guevara. He also encouraged the convicts to surrender to authorities within 15 days. He said all heinous crime convicts who have been released but refuse to surrender will be treated as fugitives. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Benj Bondoc.
President Duterte defended presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo from criticism for asking the Bureau of Pardons and Parole in a letter to act on the request for executive clemency of convicted rapist murderer, former Calauan Mayor Antonio Sanchez. In a televised press conference in Malacanang, Duterte said Panelo did not commit any infraction and it was not his fault that he was Sanchez's lawyer. He stressed that it was also not his spokesperson's fault for referring the request to the appropriate agency. Duterte pointed out that Panelo, who is also chief presidential legal counsel, could only have committed wrongdoing if he decided to personally attend to Sanchez's family request. The president also said he could vouch for Panelo's character. In a separate statement, Panelo defended anew his referral letter to the BPP asking the agency to respond to Sanchez's daughter's request. Panelo reiterated that it is standard operating procedure of the Office of the Chief Presidential Legal Counsel to respond to all letters received by it and refer and not recommend or endorse them to the appropriate agency.
Yung ginawa ni Panelo, it is not his fault that he was lawyering yan eh. Hanap buhay namin yung mga, you cannot question that. And if he happens to be there because I appointed him, nagdumating sa kanya, in-refer niya sa the proper entity. Yun nga yung board. Panelo did not commit any infraction or he happened to be a lawyer at the time. Nobody can question kaming mga abogado, kagaya ninyo, when it is part of your duty or function sa amin.
A group of convicts released under the Good Conduct Time Allowance for GCTA have surrendered to authorities. Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara on Thursday said not more than 10 convicts have come forward to surrender. This after President Duterte gave the 15-day deadline for all convicts released under the GCTA to turn themselves in. He said the DOJ is working on issuing an immigration lookout bulletin order against the released convicts. Meantime, the Philippine National Police will start deploying tracker teams before the deadline to easily locate convicts. Russia has introduced its first defense attaché to the Philippines in over 40 years on Tuesday. Russian ambassador to the Philippines Igor Kovayev introduced defense attaché Colonel Dmitry Nikitin to Philippine military officials and the media. Defense Undersecretary Raimundo Elefante welcomed the development, saying that he is optimistic about stronger military ties between the Philippines and Russia. Kovayev, meanwhile, highlighted that Russian-Philippines defense cooperation will serve the interest of peace, stability, and sustainable development in the region. In May last year, Colonel Denis Pastor was assigned as the Philippines' first defense attaché in Moscow. Last May 2018, Russian President Vladimir Putin signed an order to send his country's first designated defense attaché to the Philippines, as the 40-year bilateral relations of the two countries have improved since President Duterte assumed office in 2016. The Department of Agriculture, or DA, proposes the distribution of rice to 4-piece beneficiaries, and the drainage system in Manila has been successfully completed. These and other news around the metro from Janice Cave.
The Department of Agriculture said it is already working with the DSWD to convert the 600 peso rice subsidy or allowance into rice to open a new market for the Filipino farmers. Under the proposal, the DSWD will be required to source rice from the local government units and NFA and will distribute it among the beneficiaries instead of giving them a subsidy allowance. DA Secretary William Dar said the two agencies are already holding final discussions on the proposal and are set to sign a memorandum of agreement by October. In other news, the DPWH reports the completion of the 19 million peso drainage system along A. Isip Street in Paco, Manila. DPWH Secretary Mark Villar said they deem it necessary to complete the drainage system as soon as possible in light of the rainy season and the rising number of dengue. The drainage system is said to mitigate flooding in the area. Meanwhile, Albay Representative Joey Salceda said he is not in favor of the curfew on minors. Salcedo cited various studies exhibiting the inefficiencies of juvenile curfew, cases wherein gunfire incidents occurred more frequently compared to when the juvenile curfew was in effect, or the law being eventually discarded since it was not making a relevant difference on juvenile crimes. He adds that many teenagers nowadays act as breadwinners in the family, juggling part-time and full-time jobs during graveyard shifts. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Janice Cave.
Still to come, the president says he will raise before China the arbitral ruling on the West Philippine Sea at another time. The Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao is negotiating for the surrender of two factions of the renegade Bangsamoro Islamic Freedom Fighters. More on this when the PNA Newsroom continues.
Ito ang Duterte on Duty. Ulat sa ginagawa ng presidente. August 19, Lunes, Malacanang. Nag-courtesy call kay Pangulong Rodrigo Roa Duterte si Russian Ambassador Igor Kovaev. August 20, Martes, Malacanang. Tinanggap ng Pangulo ang credentials ng mga bagong talagang ambassador mula sa Switzerland, Germany, Malaysia, Georgia, Estonia at Malawi. Nag-courtesy call din sa Pangulo si Dr. Abdullah bin Muhammad bin Ibrahim Al-Sheikh, ang Speaker ng Majlis Al-Shura, ang Consultative Council ng Saudi Arabia. August 21, Miyerkules, Tablas Island, Romblon. Pinangunahan ni Pangulong Duterte ang inaugurasyon ng Tumingad Solar Power Project, ang pinakamalaki at kauna-unahang hybrid solar diesel microgrid na may battery facility sa bansa. Nagkakalaga ito ng 550 million pesos at inaasahang magsusupply ng kuryente sa buong Tablas Island.
I am pleased to join you today in inaugurating this hybrid solar diesel power plant that will pave the way to a greener tomorrow for Romblon and the rest of the country. This is indeed a milestone not only for the people of the province but for our environment as well.
Ako po si Secretary Martin Andanar at ito ang Duterte on Duty. Abangan sa susunod na linggo ang mga gagawin ng Pangulo.
President Duterte is waiting for another opportunity to raise the arbitral ruling on the West Philippine Sea before China. In a press conference Wednesday night, the president said he was not satisfied with Chinese President Xi Jinping's response to the ruling. He said China is still handling the protest in Hong Kong at the moment, which is why he will raise the issue at a different time. He said he mentioned to Xi that the territorial dispute will continue to hurt Philippine-China relations until the issue is resolved. President Duterte discussed the West Philippine Sea issue before Xi in their bilateral talks last week. The Department of Agriculture said that the drop in prices of palay is caused by hoarding and not on the implementation of the rice tariffication law. Agriculture Secretary William Dar on Wednesday admitted that although the implementation of the law had birth pangs, he believed that it will help farmers become more competitive over time and lower inflation rates. He explained that prices have already been dropping because of traders and millers involved in hoarding even before the law was signed on February 14. Dar assured that his agency and the Trade Department will implement the full force of the law should traders and millers refuse to cooperate.
That's the major direction with which we are looking at. Of course, importation, nandyan na. Pakiusap muna tayo. Know who they are. We have the list. So, papasyalan namin. Siguro pwede ba magkape muna? Then, alamin po natin bakit hindi sila naglalabas. And we'll see to it that we will apply the full force of the law on hoarding. If we feel there will be hoarding.
Buying stations of the National Food Authority in Negros Occidental are open to purchasing locally produced palay at a higher price amid the prevailing low buying price offered by traders. NFA Provincial Manager Frisco Canoy on Tuesday said they are offering a competitive price for rice farmers and welcome any volume of palay for sale. While the buying price offered by traders in the province is between 13 and 14 pesos per kilogram, the NFA continues to procure palay from local farmers at a support price of 17 pesos per kilo. Since January this year, NFA Negros Occidental has purchased about 2,000 bags of palay from farmers in the province. Meantime, the Department of Agriculture will be implementing more interventions to help rice farmers affected by a decline in palay prices. DA Secretary William Dar on Wednesday said the NFA will speed up the turnaround of palay rice stocks by up to 4 times, which will create a multiplier effect. He also tasked the Grains Agency to focus and intensify palay buying on areas where prices are low. The DA will convince national government agencies and multinational companies to buy rice for their respective employees directly from farmer groups and cooperatives. Meanwhile, Dar said he has formed a crisis management task force on rice to facilitate implementation of identified measures in relation to the drop of palay prices and other appropriate measures. The Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao has formed a special committee to talk to factions of the outlawed Bangsamoro Islamic freedom fighters to yield to government and return to the mainstream society. BARMM's Ministry of the Interior and Local Government's Minister Nagib Sinarimbo said the BARMM is talking with the BIFF factions of Bongos and Carillan that are both operating in the province of Maguindanao. He maintained, however, that the BARMM has kept its distance from the faction of Abu Toraife that has linked itself with the ISIS. Meanwhile, an active female fighter of the New People's Army surrendered on Monday in Sablayan Occidental, Mindoro. The rebel, known as alias Laura, who used to operate in northern Mindoro as a lead extortionist, surrendered her M16 rifle to the Army's 2nd Infantry Division. She said she quit due to the rampant corruption within the organization. She said the MPAs are actively recruiting and encouraging the youth to abandon their studies and their families and join the movement against the government. Since January this year, a total of 196 former rebels in Oriental and Occidental Mindoro have already surrendered to authorities. In Negros Oriental, a free Wi-Fi connection is being proposed particularly on barangays affected by the communist insurgency problem. Dumaguete-based businessman Edward Du made the proposal during the meeting of the Negros Oriental Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict on Tuesday. He said that increasing communication accessibility would mean corresponding development in these areas as cell phone providers are not willing to risk their businesses due to the high security threat. NOTF-LCAC Chair Governor Roel Degamo said he is open to the proposal, although funds have to be secured, considering there are 16 barangays and 7 towns and cities that were initially identified as priority areas. To address non-military aspects of the fight against insurgency, the Regional Task Force on Ending Local Communist Armed Conflict is delegating activities such as the anti-NPA information drives to its clusters. More on this from Apipa Bagumbaran.
To strengthen the campaign against insurgency in northern Mindanao, a task group of the Regional Task Force on Ending Local Communist Armed Conflict referred non-military cases to the concerned RTF-LCAC clusters for appropriate action. According to Brigadier General Edgardo de Leon, commander of the Army's 403rd Infantry Brigade and co-chairperson of the task group, member agencies of the 12 clusters are not yet fully aware of the non-military dimensions to address insurgency.
The task group pledge is actually driving the efforts of everybody to the defeat of the local communist armed conflict. We expect, or we want to enjoin all other task groups to join us in this timeline. The problem of insurgency is multidimensional and needing multidimensional intervention. Dito, in-identify namin during the last meeting kung ano yung mga dati naming pinipilit gawin na hindi naman dapat namin ginagawa. So, yun yung nakita namin at yun yung i-refer namin sa ibang task groups.
De Leon said the referral of cases got a positive response from the other clusters during the RTF-LCAC Technical Working Group meeting.
So, nung nag-refer kami ng mga problemang nakuha namin sa mga komunidad, doon nila naintindihan na totoo nga palang meron silang magagawa para solusyonan yung mga problema sa lipunan.
One of the cases referred by the pledge was the conduct of information drive on NPA recruitment in schools. In response, the Strategic Communications Cluster conducted a talakayan where 2 former rebels were invited to share their personal experiences on recruitment of students in Northern Mindanao using legal front organizations. For PNA Newsroom, Apipa Bagumbara ng Philippine Information Agency, Cagayan de Oro.
Up next, a medical group in Davao seeks to encourage more people to become organ donors. CNN names Vigan as one of the most picturesque towns in Asia. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders.
Get involved in various issues of national interest.
Is the Philippine society ready for same-sex marriage? Alam niyo napaka-controversial po nitong mga tinatawag na salugpungan schools. Ano? Kamusta po ba ang K-12? When did it start? And ano po ang status ngayon ng ating program?
Heated exchange of views that offers new perspectives and social enlightenment.
Don't push your morals on us.
Don't push your morals on us!
The same way.
Don't push your morals on us! Denying same-sex marriage!
But you're also pushing your morals on us by pushing it.
Okay. Mainit po ang talakayan.
Join Undersecretary Joel C. Eggo as he searches for the truth behind every story on Pros and Cons, Friday nights at 11, only here on PTV.
We win as one, unconquered. We win as one, unbowed. We share a single promise. We win as one. Yes, we compete, but the greatest feat is when we win. We win. We win as
The provincial government here has created a task force that will focus on curbing cases of dengue and other vector-borne diseases in Antique. Governor Rodora Cadiao is set to sign the executive order creating the Antique Provincial Task Force on Dengue and other vector-borne diseases. Dr. Leoncio Abiera Jr. of the Integrated Provincial Health Office has convened members of the task force composed of members of provincial and national government agencies and the local media to help them address the concern on dengue. Data from the Antique Integrated Provincial Health Office showed 2,060 dengue cases with 10 deaths from January 1st to August 31 this year. Meanwhile, the Southern Philippines Medical Center Human Advocate and Retrieval effort is promoting organ donation to address the alarming increase of cases of kidney failure in Davao Region. Dr. Maria Teresa Badang, nephrologist and head of SPMC Share, said that the group would like to promote a culture of donation among Davaoeños. Badang said Share sees the need for mainstreaming organ donation as Davao Region ranked third in the most number of dialysis patients in the country, according to the Department of Health. Badang said only 6 donors donated last year, where there are about 280 patients who are eligible donors who refused to donate. About 3,000 cases were recorded in Region 11, with most of the cases involving diabetes and hypertension. In our foreign news, the government of Hong Kong plans to officially withdraw its controversial extradition bill. Hong Kong Chief Executive Carrie Lam announced the decision in a videotape message released on Wednesday. The move meets one of the demands made by the protesters, which include an investigation of alleged police brutality against demonstrators and more freedom for Hong Kongers in choosing leaders. The extradition bill would have allowed the transfer of criminal suspects to mainland China for trial in courts controlled by the Communist Party. Opposition to the extradition bill has fueled 3 months of protests in Hong Kong. Lam suspended the measure in June but did not withdraw it. Hong Kong police report having arrested about 1,183 people since the protest started. Atlanta-based CNN network has named Vigan, Ilocos Sur as one of the most beautiful towns in Asia. In a statement on Wednesday, the Department of Tourism welcomed the selection, agreeing that Vigan's heritage and food made it a picture-perfect site and deserving of the spot in the CNN list. In the CNN list dated August 28, Vigan was described as one of the best places to experience Spanish colonial-era architecture in Asia. The Plaza Salcedo, including the white and yellow St. Paul's Cathedral and the Calle Crisologo, were cited as 3 must-visit areas in the city. CNN also mentioned the city's public market and pottery workshop and its established culinary scene. Also included in the CNN 13 most picturesque towns in Asia are Hoi An in Vietnam, U Phuyen in Japan, Georgetown in Malaysia, Luang Prabang in Laos, Kampot in Cambodia, Phuket Town in Thailand, Sai Kung in Hong Kong, Zhoushuang in China, Kota Gede in Indonesia, Galia in Sri Lanka, and Maul Nyingnyong in India and Gandruk in Nepal. Agripreneurs or entrepreneurs working on agriculture are the focus of ongoing photo competition, which aims to promote the development of Southeast Asia's young population towards agricultural pursuits. More on this from Teresa Montemayor.
A photo contest which zooms in on images depicting Southeast Asian youth actively engaged in agriculture has been launched to inspire others to become agripreneurs. The 2019 edition of the Southeast Asian Regional Center for Graduate Study and Research in Agriculture, or CIARCA, photo contest is open to all nationals of the Philippines and other nations in Southeast Asia. This year's competition aims to capture scenes that illustrate the theme Cultivating Asia's Youth Agripreneurs. The intent is to highlight the potential of the youth in transforming the Southeast Asian agricultural landscape and inspire enthusiasm among the young to be involved in agriculture. Dr. Glenn Gregorio, CIARCA Director, said the agriculture entrepreneurs or agripreneurs or trans farmers are people who combine business opportunities with agriculture. The CIARCA Director also said Southeast Asia's population is considered young, with ages ranging from 15 to 34, which makes up to 34% of the total number of the region's inhabitants. Gregorio believes because the youth is the future engagement of any country, they should be invested in and properly guided and directed, so they will become good leaders and the catalyst for economic, social, and cultural development. For the competition, the first place winner will receive $1,000 US, the second and third places will get $800 and $500 US respectively, while a People's Choice Award will receive $200 US. There will also be special prizes for the Department of Education Secretary's Choice and the CIARCA Director's Choice. All entries must be submitted online at photocontest.ciarca.org until November 30, 2019. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Teresa Montemayor.
Let's take another look at today's biggest stories.
President Duterte is likely to order the revamp of the Bureau of Corrections following the premature release of heinous crime convicts. The president says he will raise before China the arbitral ruling on the West Philippine Sea at another time. The Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao is negotiating for the surrender of two factions of the renegade Bangsamoro Islamic Freedom Fighters. And CNN names Vigan as one of the most picturesque towns in Asia.
Thank you for watching another edition of the PNA Newsroom. To check out these and other stories, visit the PNA website or follow the Philippine News Agency on Facebook and Twitter. For more stories about the government and how it serves the Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. And that's your daily dose of the latest news and information that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, I am William Theo. Good day.